did a couple of records, didn't really break through in any big way, and all of a sudden I found myself in New York, and I'm, out of a gig. And before I even had time to panic at all, how was I going to, pay rent? A guy who I knew, singer-songwriter who now is a very successful Nashville writer-producer, a guy named John Tiven, okay. Knew me and what I did, and he said, I remember meeting him up at Trax, the club that used to be up on 72nd Street, and he said, this friend of mine, this guitar player, G.E. Smith, he's with Hall & Oates, he just signed a solo record deal and he needs a bass player. And so I ended up meeting G.E., and he knew this drummer, Mickey Curry, who had been in a group in Connecticut that he had been in before he had come down to New York. And one thing led to another, and we're recording G.E.'s solo record at Power Station with Bob Clearmountain, and it's a really pretty great experience all around. It was in addition to the musical element of it, it was also an interesting experience because he at the time was married to Gilda Radner from Saturday Night Live. They had this brief, it was a relatively brief wedding, terrible mismatch, but for this period of time they were married, and I can remember G.E. once he decided on Mickey and me to do his record, he said, do you want to rehearse in Manhattan or should we rehearse in the Hamptons? Gilda had rented some, let's see, it's summertime, so that was sort of a no-brainer. So we all decamped to the Hamptons. Gilda had rented this wonderful house out in Watermill, and so we rehearsed out there. It was this little glassed-in conservatory. We had these little tiny amps, and it was just great. It was a wonderful experience. I should add that in addition to the three of us, a guitar player by the name of Jimmy McAllister, who was a really sweet guy. He had played with, what was their name? The Mail Brothers. Sparks. Yeah, he had done some stuff with Sparks and some other people, and didn't end up ultimately on G.E.'s record, but he was part of this group when we did some live stuff. But because of the Saturday Night Live connection, there were all kinds of interesting characters. They were all always coming over to the house, and we would kind of do these private gigs for them, and it was sort of a fun experience. But having done that, about a month after we did that, both Mickey and I got a call from Bob Clearmountain that he had this Canadian kid that had come to town and he had to do a record with. That turned out to be Bryan Adams. So we went straight in, we did Bryan's record, and then immediately after that, I got a call, I guess from Garland, I don't even remember, because Garland, this was all sort of this incestuous connection. The last record Garland had been at Power Station with Clearmountain. G.E. had played on the record. Garland was making a change of bass players. He had Andrew Bodner and Steve Goulding, the bass player and drummer from the Rumor, on this record. There was his Escape Artist record, which had yielded his biggest hits to that point. And when it came time for him to go on the road, he had a long American tour book, but he was warming up on a handful of dates in Europe. And it turned out that Brinsley Schwartz and Martin Belmont, the guitar players from the Rumor, were available. And so he just picked up the four of them, added an American keyboard player, and went off and did these gigs in Europe, and came back and decided that Andrew was not going to work for him live and wanted to find a bass player. So I got a call. And so my audition, I was sent, the record company sent me, I think it was 32 songs, and they gave me 4 days to learn this stuff. So obviously I'm shedding away on this stuff, and expected to walk into a rehearsal studio and expected the Rumor all set up. And I went into the rehearsal studio, and it was just Garland and a little cassette player. And he said, here, plug into the amp, and he then starts playing pieces of his tracks, and says, play along. So I'd play along, I'd play the bass part, and we got about 4 songs into the thing. He says, okay, you're the new bass player, you got the, So that was Garland's thing.
Did you do that record?
I did not. I came in right after that record, okay. But there was a live record that
Rock and Roll Adult.
Correct, and I'm on that record. Andrew is on I forget, it's got 6, 7 tracks on it, and Andrew's actually on a couple of tracks that were done in Europe, and I'm on
Okay,
I'm on
right,
most
yeah,
of the
'cause he went back
record.
to-